Namaste everybody, Rina here. Welcome and thank you for joining me in this yoga session. I hope that you already found somewhere quiet in your home where you can be left alone, undisturbed, and could focus on your yoga practice for about 25 to 30 minutes. So in this video I will be focusing on the upper body, in particular the shoulders. When we're talking about the shoulders, we can refer to shoulder joint and also to a shoulder complex. So shoulder joints are quite mobile joints in the body, and where there is a mobility and high mobility, there is a risk of injury, high risk of injury. So we'd like to find a good optimal balance between stability and mobility in our shoulders. What affects the range of motion in that joint? Well, first of all, it's your genetics. It's how you've been born, right? Sometimes it's just the structure and the shape of your bones, which will allow you to go probably into a bit more extensive range of motion, or maybe it will limit your range of motion. Another factor to consider is your past experiences, your injuries. Is there any scar tissues that are present in the body? Your habitual tendencies, your line of work, your use of the upper body. Is that a repetitive overuse, or maybe not engaging enough? So those are the factors that will affect your range of motion. And as I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, that our aim is to have proper balance between the stability and mobility in those joints. So if we are too stable and we lack mobility, you may feel that you're quite stiff in the body, in the upper body, or your range of motion is quite limited. On the contrary, if you have mobility but lack of stability, there is a higher risk of injuries. What are the common pains and aches? And it depends what's causing you the pain and how often that pain occurs. So the first one, if we're considering that you're only experiencing pain after the yoga practice, then perhaps it's it could be a sign for you to pause and reflect. Are you not stabilizing your shoulders enough in chaturangas? Or that could be down dogs, up dogs, those strong poses where we have to engage the upper body. And could there be a lack of strength in the body, in the upper body, a lack of stability, and then because of that you are using the not primary muscles but your secondary muscles, and you're overloading them. So, or maybe it's just the chaturangas, maybe it's the amount of the repetitive action that you're doing. So it's a good opportunity here to pause and reflect on what is that you're doing in your yoga practice that may affect and may cause you the pain. The second option, if you're in chronic pain, well, obviously, first of all, very important to find the root cause of that pain. We're yoga teachers, we are not physicians, so it's important to go and seek the medical advice. Or if you know that you have a certain condition and you're living with that pain, that chronic pain, there are certain things that we may be able to do in yoga that would help to alleviate those pains and aches. Those people who do have common regular pains, I'd like you to pay a lot of attention in how you practice yoga. We don't want to get the condition worse, we want to alleviate those symptoms, those pains and aches. So being mindful into the practice. This practice is open to all levels. If you're an absolute beginner, I would recommend to use the strap. If you don't have strap to hand, I would recommend to use the belt or maybe a towel, something that in a certain movement that you can take your arms slightly wider, especially if you do have a rigidity and restriction with your range of motion in the shoulders. Right, so I invite you to take a cross-legged seated position if you haven't done so. We're going to start the practice. I'm using the block to elevate the pelvis. You could use the blanket. I do have the blanket to hand, just in case that I need to support my knees. And if you're finding that in Sukhasana your knees are highly elevated, maybe propping them, maybe using two blocks or block and a blanket, something that could give you a bit of help in bringing your spine in the upright position without too much effort. So we do want to keep engagement here and keep the posture straight. However, we're trying not to, to put too much tension into the body. Your hands are resting on the knees. Allowing the pelvis slightly tilt forward, so trying not to round through the back. But if you're rounding through the back, you'll naturally feel that pelvis is tilting slightly backward. Maybe bring it to the forward. Shoulders relaxed. Your gaze is closed. Just taking a few breaths to center yourself, to arrive to the present moment, to set perhaps the intentions for the practice. And start with gentle movement of your shoulders, so we're making a circular movements, and this is your first chance to actually focus and be aware of what's happening in the upper body for you today. Is there any tension, aches, pains? Is there anything that you need to pay attention during the practice? And change the rotation to the other side. Back into the center. I'm going to start making kind of a windmill arm movement. So your right arm goes up, your left goes behind you, you're flexing in your elbows, and then we're going to change the side of the movement. So at this stage, imagine that you are like a windmill and you're trying to replicate that windmill movements. We're not here trying to grab the fingers yet, just allowing, and you can just feel those range of movements that we can experience in that the shoulder complex allows us to do with our arms and hands and wrists. And back into the center. And here, if you need to use the strap, then use it. You can grab hold of it with one of the hands and bring your arm behind you. With the opposite hand, bring it as well behind you, but from the bottom up, and then grab the strap. Try to avoid twisting. At this point the chest is open, and move maybe and walk your fingers closer to each other. If you're finding that you can grab the fingertips, you'll feel a slight pull in the upper shoulder, so it will on the top of your humerus bone. You can also feel in the area of your underarm. Few breath here. And then let's change the position, keeping your chest open. And notice, okay, maybe for one side you'll find it slightly easier than the other side. Just notice it. I'm not making any conclusions, any setting any expectations. We're just paying attention to the body. And let's remove the arms. Let's bring them up. Maybe hugging your elbows this time. And we're going to add the lateral stretch. So we're going to lean towards the left side. Very gently, with control. Maybe looking over towards the right side. And then bringing yourself back into the center and gently moving into the other side. So we are keeping the chest open, inviting that side stretch into the left side of the body. And back into the center. Okay, let's get into the puppy pose. So for this one, if you do need to protect your knees, just fold up your mat or using the blanket or anything just to support your kneecaps here. Okay, so keeping your sit bones really high, we're going to walk the hands forward and you start melting into the mat. So maybe you'll go all the way. Navel slightly drawn in. For some of you, you may want to use the block to position your forehead, maybe pose here. But really important here to notice, okay, where do I feel the stretch? If that's too intense, take your arms wider. Creating vacuum in the belly. So it's a contracting and connecting to your Uddiyana Bandha. You can also tuck the chin or you position the forehead on the floor. And the next inhale coming into the all four. Okay, let's start with your left arm. We're gonna bring it forward, finding the length. And then we're gonna drop and thread the needle and dropping the shoulder, your left shoulder on the floor, your cheek goes on the floor and maybe pressing slightly into the mat. I'm bringing the arm up behind you. Again, we're gonna be outside rotating the right shoulder here. And we're looking up. If that's too much on your right side, maybe just staying here. Remember, it's also a twist. So you'll feel the sensations in the waist area. But at the same time, we want to open up through the shoulders. And let's do the other side. Right arm up, forward, lengthen through the spine, and we're going to drop
the right side, the right shoulder onto the floor. You may want to keep pressing with your left hand into the floor, or bringing it up and behind you to open up and outside rotate that left shoulder. Again, be paying attention to the sensations, to working with the range of motions that is your range of motion. So respecting the openness of the body and working with that openness. And back into the all four. Tuck your toes, your hands are underneath the shoulder, lift the knees, pedal through the feet. And start pressing with your hands into the mat. It's like pushing the mat away, keeping your knees soft if needs to be. So trying to pay attention to the elbows, especially for those who tend to hyperextend. And then walk your feet forward, leave some space in front of the mat. And sink with the upper body, so folding forward, allowing the gravity to guide you here. Keeping your knees soft, remember to release the hamstrings. Inhale, halfway left. Exhale, fold. Inhale, we're going to sit into the chair. Tuck tailbone. So if you're finding that you're here, maybe bringing to the center. So bringing, tucking, tilting the pelvis, tucking the tailbone. Knees are together. And those extension of those arms. If you're finding that you're squishing, maybe bring the shoulders away from the ears. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, halfway left. Plant your hands, step into the plank. Okay, from the plank, first of all, let's stabilize the shoulders. We're going to do the modified chaturanga, which means I'm going to drop the knees and I'm going to bring the elbows into flexion, and when I'm pretty much at the end, I want to glide up and come into the Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. If that's too much, modify. Bhujangasana, Cobra. Baby Cobra. Keeping your toes pointed. So in any of the poses you are in, keeping your glutes engaged, pressing with the hands into the mat, tuck the toes, press into the down dog. 5 breaths in Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Start feeling that heat generated in the body. We do need that heat, especially in the yang style of yoga, which vinyasa is very yang style. We do want to ensure that our muscles are warm, the body is warm, before we start finding that strength, stabilizing, and working on the stretching those muscles, or finding that mobility. Okay, bandhas, your locks, perineum squeeze, navel drawn in. You create Ujjayi breath, a slight restriction with the back of the throat. Exhale, bend the knees. And here, walk, jump, step. Inhale, halfway. Exhale, fold. Inhale, let's sit into Uttanasana, chair pose. Having your toes together, Notice this first and the second toe. I can look and see them past my knees. Remember to bring the shoulders away from the ears. Exhale, folding forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Plant your hands, step into the plank. And here you can do the modified chaturanga, but if you're ready to go into full chaturanga dandasana, start bending your elbows, bringing yourself closer to the floor, and then maybe gliding up, retracting the shoulders, stretching to the throat, tucking the toes, and down dog for 5 breaths. Keeping your knees soft. Remember, having that stability in the body, it's inviting that ujjayi breath by restriction of the back of the throat. It's also utilizing your pelvic floor, using your diaphragm, creating that vacuum, hollowness in the belly. Let's lift the right leg up. Look forward, step forward. Prepare your strap in front of you. So from here, we're going to lift the hands off the floor. We're in a upper or runner's lunge. And here, you can interlace the fingers and bring the shoulders back, or you can use the strap and also keep the opening in the chest. Any of the variations. You can look forward or you can look up, making sure that you're having the stability. If that's too much, and that could be too much on the quads, okay, then maybe supporting yourself with your hands or using 2 blocks, which I'll demonstrate on the other side, and having support here. Okay, let's transition. So we're gonna move towards the opposite side. I'm gonna prepare the blocks to both sides of me, so you can hear, and this will be more of a targeted area, working on your hip flexors, your quads, your glutes. If you're finding, okay, I've got that stability here, and I want to also incorporate opening through the chest and arching through the back, engaging my shoulders. Again, maybe using the strap here, especially for those. If you also have a muscly body, obviously you're going to be restricted in your range of motion. So using the strap. Stretching through the throat. Too much, remember, using the blocks perhaps. And still, if you're even using the blocks, try not to round through the back and having your shoulders just slumped forward. Bring them behind you. Okay, remove the blocks. We're gonna pivot and walk towards the right side of the body. Plant your hands, step back. Ardha Mukha Svanasana. Plank. Stabilizing the shoulders. Chaturanga. Up dog, could be cobra, could be baby cobra. Turn the toes. Down dog. Let's lift the left leg up. We're gonna look forward. We're gonna step forward. We're gonna rotate towards the front and bring your toes slightly in. Okay, from here, soften through the knees. So in this position, we're ready, hinge from the hips. Rather than locking the upper body and then rounding here, soften the knees, hips, hinge, 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 hinge from the hips. And from here, using your blocks, if you need that support, but we want to work on the upper body as well as the lower part of the body, you can use your strap. Next inhale, lift the chest, and on the exhale, fold forward and bring your arms up and away. And here the gravity will help you, because the gravity is our aid, our helper, rather than our foe. And breathe. For those of you who are quite open in the shoulders, you may be able to interlace the fingers and then bringing interlaced hands up and away. Release your hands forward, inhale halfway lift, exhale, fold forward, rotate towards the left side of the body, step back, Ardha Svanasana. For a moment you probably thought it's going to be Chaturanga, but no. Cross the legs and bring them forward. Using your strap, we're going to go into Paschimottanasana. So first of all, tilt. Tilting, we want to tilt. If you need to use the blanket, which can create, you can just sit on the edge of the blanket. So it will create that angle that will assist you in this forward fold. Knees soft, remember the hamstrings. We want to stretch them, but we want to not to overdo it. So keeping them soft. Bring your strap, the belt or the towel over your feet. That also will ensure that you're using your feet, you're flexing them. Maybe looping around 2 times, 1 time. Keeping your spine straight, keeping the knees soft. Inhale. And on the exhale, bend your elbows without losing the length in the spine. Maybe looping 1 more time with your belt. We're bringing the torso, we're bringing the chest towards the thighs. Your shoulders away from the ears. Inhale. And exhale. There are different variations of this pose, and some of the teachers do teach at the end to flex through the upper body. I prefer the Ashtanga Vinyasa school of yoga. So in those teachings, you're bringing your spine into, you're keeping your spine straight, no flexion. And gently releasing. So moving your blanket away from you. And from here, we're going to go straight into Purvottanasana, strong pose. I would suggest, if you're an absolute beginner, to have the block between your knees and come into the modification. If you're an experienced practitioner and you're familiar with the full pose of Purvottanasana, you can stretch your legs and then maybe do it in stages, lifting here, lifting the buttocks off the floor. Remember to keep your elbows soft, try not to hyperextend, engage your glutes, and maybe here try to bring the soles of the feet closer to the floor. If that's too much, I'm also arching through the neck, stretching through the throat, but you can start from here. Important thing here, keep your glutes engaged. And gently lowering down, bringing yourself fully down on the floor, and straight away bringing your knees towards the chest, and we're gonna decompress. So with the lower back on the floor, massage the hips, inside, outside rotation. We're gonna rock forward. With rocking forward, coming into the cross-legged seated position. Close your gaze. Place your hands on the knees. Bringing your right hand behind you, left on the right knee, and have a spinal twist with the eyes closed, looking internally. But imagine that you want to gaze over the right shoulder. So you're twisting through the neck as well as twisting through the waist. And back into the center and the other side. Back into the center, bringing both of your arms behind you. What you can do, you can hug the elbows, or you can interlace the fingers, or you can use the strap. Inhale first, and on the exhale we're gonna fold forward and perhaps bring the arms up and away. You can have a folded blanket in front of you just for the forehead to rest. You can have your fingers interlaced, or you can have your elbows hugged, and if you do have your extension of your arms, then you're getting slightly more movement here into the upper shoulders rather than with the elbows bent. There won't be the same effect as the stretched arms. And very gently coming back, keeping your gaze soft. Opening your eyes. And I'd like you just to notice the sensations in the body. So in this practice, we worked energetically from the lower energy to the higher energy. And this practice finishes here at the high peak of energy. So if you want that for the rest of your day, if you needed that boost of energy, so you're finding that you're elevated, that you're uplifted energetically, then you can go about it with your day. However, if you're finding that this peak of energy is not where you want to be right now, then probably having few twists, going into the child's pose, just start winding down, and then go into Shavasana for a time that's suitable for your needs. If you want to have that energy to go down, so it's either you want to be here, or like a bell shape, you want the energy to go down and then to relax, to access more parasympathetic nervous system and go about your day with that softer and quieter energy. So entirely up to you. It depends on your needs.
on the way that you feel, and also what are the plans for the rest of the day. Thank you so much for joining me in this video. I hope you found it useful. Namaste.